Tell me your full name, your position, and how many years you've been in Senate.
So my name is Madison Sloat. I am the current president of Student Senate for the 2018-2019 year. And I am sort of a unique situation because last year was my first year in Senate. So I've only been in Senate since I was a junior.
Interesting.
I ran on the green light ticket in my sophomore year in the spring for the East Green Senator position. So I was on the Res Life Commission last year, and that was my position, was the senator position.
So how did you find out about Senate?
So I was pretty involved in other ways on campus before that, and especially through the Period Project, which was the organization that I'd started my first year here, but then also through the Honors Tutorial College, just had a lot of connections that way. And they were looking for some people to run with Greenlight, and specifically Haley Clear was a friend of mine, and she was the campaign manager for Greenlight, so she reached out to me probably in really early January of, what would that be, 2017? Yes, spring of 2017. And she was like, would you be interested in running for a position? And honestly, I had never even thought about it. I was, like, oh my gosh, I'm already so involved. I don't know how I would fit it in. But the thing that they got me with was because I really wanted to institutionalize the funding of menstrual products, and that had been something we've been trying to do through the Period Project, and we're trying to figure out how we could do that and bring it kind of to like a higher level through the university. And Haley was like, we can do that in Senate if you joined. And so I was like, I really do want to do this. So I did. I ran for the position. And I think just because I got to see something, I was the head of a very small student organization, and I watched an institutional body take something, a small student idea, and empower it to this level that made real, tangible change. And that was something that I was so incredibly proud of, but I was so excited to be a part of something that could take those small student ideas and make them a reality. And I think that that is kind of what we should be doing as elected representatives, that I wish that every type of government, whether it's student or, state, local, federal government, those should all be taking like ideas of their constituents and really making them a reality. And so I kind of just fell in love with it that way, I think.
So what type of involvement did you have with the Period Project? Was that some type of group on campus before Senate, or was that just started through your time in Senate?
So not even in Senate. I started the Period Project as an organization my first year on campus here. It had never been an organization before. It's not affiliated with other organizations. It was something that we created. Several of my friends, essentially, and I and HTC saw this need for better access to menstrual products on campus, and we started the organization because of that interest from the community and from campus in kind of creating something where we could make that type of change. So it was basically donations and advocacy for issues of menstrual health. The only reason it became something that came to Senate, and Senate works specifically with the Take a Tampon, Leave a Tampon initiative of the Period Project. The Period Project still exists separately and does its own thing now, but the only reason was because we were looking basically for the support, the institutional support, and especially the funding through Senate to be able to make that a reality.
So after Senate pretty much financially and institutionally supported the Period Project, how do you see that organization existing today? Like, do you see a positive change, and how so? Like, what is that change like for the...
Take a Tampon, Leave a Tampon was an enormous issue of ours I mean, it was an enormous focus of ours as the Period Project, because that was kind of the one way that campus really knew us, because it was something that we were actively engaging with students through. And so once that was sort of taken on by Senate, they were able to more focus on issues relating to like donations specifically to shelters and to schools in the community, and then also doing more advocacy to like the state legislature to, for example, like the tampon tax of taxing menstrual products, which currently is still happening in Ohio. So they're advocating for that. So they actually they kind of got put into the Intersectional Feminist Alliance now. So there's a lot of kind of feminist affiliated groups that all came together to kind of have a stronger voice on those issues. So the Period Project still exists, but it's sort of under the umbrella of IFA, if that makes sense. So that's how they're currently existing. But I turned over the position of president my junior year, number one, to give myself some more time to be able to free up to do other things, including be a representative of Senate, but also because I had gotten to the point too where I felt like it needed some fresh ideas and leadership, and I wanted it to be something that continued beyond me. And so I wanted to be there to be able to give support to the new president in that transition process, but also be able to see it kind of last beyond my leadership of it, if that makes sense. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. So going back to Senate, what sort of projects were you involved in outside of the Period Project last year into this year?
Yeah, so I was on the Sustainable Life Committee, and we were the ones that kind of chaired the reusable, food container initiative through Culinary Services, but also the reusable bag initiative as well with Residence Life. So that now provides reusable bags to all first-year students whenever they first move in to try and decrease the amount of plastic bags that are being utilized. I was involved with a lot of issues of like safety, lighting, sexual assault. Those have always been passions of mine. So basically, if there's anything that had to do with that, I was probably involved in it last year. And yeah, the Take a Tampon, Leave a Tampon initiative was an enormous undertaking just to establish how we were going to figure out the funding and getting connected with AmpFlow, which is the service that we currently utilize. So all of those things were probably some of my biggest ones. But and then we did some work last year figuring out how to make Senate more connected with like hall councils and residence life, which has been a much stronger relationship this year, especially with TRAC and like the Residence Action Council. So that's been a really positive thing as well. And it's been good because Walter is also in TRAC, and he's very happy to see that that moving forward. So, yes.
Of course. So, in that similar vein, can you tell me a little bit about how you formed your ticket for this current administration?
Sure. Yeah, it was never, I think some people come into this position coming in first year of their, freshman year, they're like, I want to be president or an executive of a student government. That was never, ever, ever, I don't think either any of the three of our intentions coming onto campus, none of us were really envisioning that for ourselves. But I think it was something where there were conversations that were happening with a lot of people in Senate, and Lydia, Hannah, and I had all been approached by several different people who were interested in running, and were asking us to be in positions that none of us, I should say, were really comfortable being in. Like, for example, I was approached to be a treasurer in another ticket, and I don't really have a lot of experience in doing things relating to finances, and my political communication is my major. I have not taken a math class in 4 years, and I'm happy about it. So it was a conversation we were having. We were trying to find people who felt like they were aligning with our values and things that we really cared about. And all of us had been the three of us, I should say, had been having these experiences. And so we met after a GBM one night at Union Street Diner, and we're having these conversations. And we're like, I don't remember who said it first, but it was just like what if we ran instead? And that was a shocking revelation. We were like, did we really just say that out loud? Do we really want to undergo the campaign process? But I think the three of us just felt so strongly about all of the issues and things that we were passionate about and wanted to really make that change and see those things become a reality, that we were like, let's do it. So we kind of set about gathering our our people, and something particularly that drove our whole process of deciding to run in the campaign process was I'm not technically a Senate insider in a lot of ways. I have a lot of experience outside of this body, and something that I wanted to see more of was making students outside of this body feel connected and represented by the students that are representing them. And so that sort of was the behind the scenes reason why we chose Bridge to be our name, and that was for a variety of reasons. But one thing that we really wanted to do was kind of reach out to student populations that didn't traditionally feel represented in Senate. And so that was demographically, but that was also ideologically. So we made a concerted effort to reach out to people with different political opinions that are traditionally in Senate, because we think that this should be a place where you can civilly engage in those conversations and those dialogues. And then, in addition to that, just reaching out to more international students, more students of color, more women who are traditionally not represented in student governments quite as frequently. And so those were things that were incredibly important to us, especially as three women. We thought that that was something that was meaningful to the three of us. But then also, our platform was kind of based on the fact that the university has a lot of resources and the students have a lot of ideas, but a lot of times things sort of get lost in translation between the two of those because no one is actually facilitating that conversation. And so we were saying student government should be the place where those conversations are facilitated. So those are kind of some of the reasons why we decided that we wanted to run. And it was the craziest process ever. And I'm happy that we're done with it, is all I can say about that. But
yeah, so going back to what you said about, having these three women in the executive position, as far as our records show, this is the very first female-run executive team, especially pretty much just women across the board at every GBM at that front desk.
Yeah.
How does that stand out to you in any particular way? Does it have any significance? If so, just elaborate on the idea of how you view this administration kind of being an example.
I think whenever we ran, it was not lost on us that this was something unique. And I think that was never something, like when we campaigned, we never, ever addressed the fact that the three of us were women. That was never something that we wanted to really bring in. I think people could probably put it together themselves, but it was also something where we didn't want it to be like, we're coming hard, like we're here in these positions and we're running for these positions because we're qualified to and because we care about students here and student voices, not because we want to, set the precedent. But also, I think it is really important to me, and it's really important to the three of us, to know that we have had some type of contribution to this university and leaving a legacy and paving the pathway forward for women to feel like they're coming to campus and seeing themselves represented in even the highest positions of leadership on campus. And so I think that especially because the three of us have done a lot in issues that pertain to like women's issues and stuff, and it means a lot, I will say. Something that happened at the very beginning of the year, I was approached. I spoke at the first year convocation to all the first year students, and I was approached by a bunch of students after the fact, and mostly female students, and a lot of them said things along the lines of, like, it was really cool to see a woman in a position of leadership on campus and see one that's really well respected and that people seem to be behind. And that, to me, that like meant just so incredibly much to know that for us, I don't think I think about it on a daily basis, but I think what makes me so excited about it is knowing that we can make it easier for people in the future, for women in the future, to feel like they can break into those spaces and feel like they have the power to be leaders, and that the campus here is supportive of that. So,
and along the lines of inclusivity, a little similar, in your time in Senate and even during this current semester, what challenges have you faced, either professionally, any type of way, if there was any negative experiences with you, especially in the current position, whatever you're comfortable talking about, any type of challenges that you experienced and overcame during your time in Senate.
Yeah, I think we have tried to handle everything that has come up in this type of capacity as like a learning experience, like as an opportunity for us to be educators and not necessarily critics, but just everything is educational. And so something that we did run into at the beginning of the semester was just experiencing some comments and some ways that we were treated that felt like they were different because we were all women. And so that was, number one, really frustrating. But number two, I think gave us an opportunity to really talk about how that impacts us. And something that I have been very transparent about is I think the best leaders are ones that are incredibly vulnerable with their teams. I think that we need to do that. We need to be honest and transparent in everything that we're doing because we are human beings, and I think that the best leaders are the ones that acknowledge their humanity. And so I think explaining how those types of things and the way that and a lot of times they're not intended to be malicious, or like the ways that we're treated that kind of seem like tinged with sexism sometimes. And again, people are not aware that those things kind of can come off like that. And again, this is the first time that there's been 3 women in this office. And so it's important to have those kinds of educational conversations. And I think because we did that, that showed a lot of people how, like, the back end of it and how that really feels to be on the receiving end of those. But it also has brought us as a Senate together so much closer, I think, too. And I love seeing the growth in people. And so that's been really good. I would say across the board, I mean, you always experience it as a woman. That's not going to go away. It's not going to go away in our professions either, unfortunately. And that's a reality that we all have to face. But I think learning how to navigate it in a way that you still, at the end of the day, can feel like you're doing the work that you want to be doing and you're proud of it and you're doing things with integrity, I think that that's the only thing that you can do. So I think the biggest thing that I have learned from this semester, and this has been a challenging semester too, I'm not going to downplay the fact that we've had a significant amount of challenges this semester. I think it's learning how to navigate those things with empathy and with grace and continuing to emphasize your values through everything and kind of having those be your guiding compass through the challenges, if that makes sense.
So trying to wrap it up in a more positive tone,
yes,
as opposed to just talking about issues and all that. Can you talk to me about some of the things that you were most proud of coming out of this semester, going into next semester?
Yes, I would love to. So something that we have been just absolutely incredibly proud of is that we have actually gotten to follow up on that promise about really bridging connections between students, administrators, other student organizations, leaders. So 2 events that we are enormously proud of are first our Bobcat Leaders Breakfast, which occurred during our retreat this year, the very beginning of the semester, where we brought all of our student leaders in Senate into the same room as some of the top administrators at the university, and right off the bat, they all met. They all started talking about ways that they could collaborate and move forward, and I think that those connections have really just paved such a great pathway forward for us to all be partners in all of these conversations. I think that there's been a lot more partnership moving forward because of that, so I'm super proud of that. We're really excited about our town hall event that happened in October this year, where we brought together a lot of student organization leaders to be able to meet with us and tell us about their issues and things that they're concerned about. We created a Slack specifically for student leaders on campus to be able to kind of meet and share ideas and work together in the future. So a lot more collaboration in that way, a lot more cross support from different student organizations. Even within Senate, there's been so much more collaboration between our commissions on a lot of issues. So for example, sexual assault prevention has been such an enormous part of our platform and our goals of the year, and I have just been so incredibly proud of our leaders and kind of taking that on their own. So our safety app is almost completely finalized, and that was something that almost the entire body came together to give support for, so that was awesome. We're currently working on the safety walk that's happening next week, and that's a collaboration between off-campus gov affairs, university life, and res life that are all coming together to do work on that, which has just been like the best ever. And we're making a lot of progress on just like big types of issues that we said that we wanted to. Like I think something that's I'm like really proud of is just seeing the amount of work that has gone into this semester, and being able to kind of leave that pathway forward for future commissions to do that work, even if we're not able to finish every project that we're working on, knowing that we're leaving a really positive foundation for them to kind of step onto next year is really exciting. So I could speak endlessly about how proud I am. I feel like a little proud mom. Like it's been just the absolute best to be in this position, because I think my favorite thing about being like a leader is watching other people like really get to excel at what they do best and empower their strengths, and we are seeing so much of that this year. And so yeah, it's been a really, really cool experience overall. Despite the challenges, I would not trade a single day of it. So
awesome. Yeah. So then the final question is, since this is as opposed to the whole year roundup, this is more semester to semester, what are you looking forward to the most next semester? Like, once we get back from winter break, what is the first few things that you're going to tackle?
Yeah. So I think right now we're sort of on the edge of wrapping up a lot of big projects and things. And so I'm really excited to start seeing kind of the tangible impacts of those things beginning to happen. So like our safety app, will start doing PR for that right out of the gate next semester. And so we're really excited to kind of see how the campus hopefully is excited about that app and utilizes it. And that it is even just a small contributor to making campus a tiny, tiny bit safer for students. So that's one thing we're really excited about. We're going to be working really closely with the Board of Trustees next semester, and that's something we're really excited about too, to see setting sort of a precedent for future administrations to come and present and have more of this sense of shared governance between our bodies. So that's a very cool thing. But also we are like just kicking it into gear right now with all of our projects. And so I'm just like ready to grind next semester. Like I'm ready to just get it done. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just going to be wrapping up a lot of projects and making a lot of good progress.